How's it going, everyone? And welcome to another episode of Animal Talk Podcast with me, Ryan Ferguson.
And me, Aiton King. Hey Ryan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Hanging in there, I guess. Surviving.
That's
I'll
good. I
use
think
that
we're all
word.
hanging in there. Surviving again. That's a good one.
So, what are we going to be talking about today?
Well, I think before we get into that, we need to address the elephant in the room.
Is it the elephant or the whale? The whale in the
And
room.
that is that we are... Okay, we'll address the whale just for you. We are actually recording this podcast a bit backwards. This episode is being, well, the whole episode was recorded and now we're doing the intro because there was slight bugs in the system. Do you want to maybe tell our listeners what happened, Aiton?
Well, I prefer to describe it as using creative license, but basically what happened was we just couldn't get the recording to work with me being on it. I assume it was my internet connection at the time, and I think Ryan and I and Tammy tried to reconnect, I think 4 or 5 times, and as soon as it would work, it would stop working, and it just became a technical nightmare. So we
Yeah.
decided that in order for the podcast to go on, we needed to just go with what was working. And Ryan had a chat with Tammy, and I just took the back seat with my really bad, unstable internet connection and sat this one out.
Welcome to Africa.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The very, very challenging internet connection.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's pretty much what happened. And that's why you'll notice that I'm going to magically disappear during this podcast.
Yep, the show must go on.
Indeed.
Alrighty, well, you've kind of let the cat out of the bag already. So I'm going to introduce our guest for this episode. And our guest is a very good friend of mine. I have worked with her for many, many years, and we've discussed many topics. And she's also been on Animal Talk podcast before. So if you've ever listened to our episodes from 5 years ago, she was on episode 6 and told us a little bit more about owls and their work that they do for the environment. So I'm very excited to have her back on Animal Talk podcast from all the way at FreeMe Wildlife, KZN in Howick, Tammy Caine. Hi, Tammy. How's it going?
Hey Ryan, so exciting to be back on Animal Talk podcast.
Yay, the reboot.
Yeah, very cool. I'm happy to be back chatting to you, even virtually, and to also the listeners.
Yeah, definitely. And unfortunately, this evening, we've had a little bit of a glitch and we've had to, unfortunately, not have my co host with us because seems to be having a slight technical and internet difficulty. But you will have heard him in the beginning of the podcast as we always have a chat. But unfortunately, he's not really part of the podcast this time, unfortunately, this episode. So, but we'll go ahead and we'll continue without him. We miss you, Aiton, but we will hopefully have you back on the next episode again because I can't really do this without you. So here we go. Now, Tammy, you in the last episode you were on with us, you already told us your favorite animal, and that is the owls as a species, and this white-faced scops owl, if I'm not mistaken. So that was your favorite animal, right?
Yeah, that was a difficult one, but yeah, I had to pick one eventually, and that's definitely still my favorite out of all the birds of prey.
That's awesome. And also, just to let everybody know, most recently, Tammy has become a member of SARCA. So that's really exciting as well.
Yes, yay! So excited about that too.
Yeah, that's cool. So thanks very much for for joining us on the saga side. And again, thank you very much for making the time to join us on Animal Talk podcast. Tammy, if you can give our listeners a little bit more of a background of exactly what you do, because Tammy comes from FreeMe Wildlife. Can you just give us a little bit of a background of what you do at FreeMe, and then we'll go into the more details of what this podcast is about?
Right, yeah. So I started at FreeMe Wildlife in 2018, which is my career with birds of prey started in 2012, I think it was, if I look back on that. So started at FreeMe Wildlife in 2016 and came on board at FreeMe Wildlife because at that point they hadn't developed a bird of prey section to the rehabilitation center. So it was mainly to come on board there and help develop that section. But being into birds of prey is not sort of my only skill or talent. I am unfortunately also fairly good with bookkeeping and stuff. So apart from, yeah, I know it's like a punishment in a way. Because apart from being the resident bird of prey specialist, I'm also now the financial manager, which, yeah, that's one part is fun, one part is suffering behind a laptop.
That's a lot of hats you have to wear.
Yeah, it is, and they're quite different actually, one from the other. But you can't have a facility without having finances to run it. So I suppose the two do go hand in hand.
Definitely, especially when you're talking about a rehabilitation center, an NPO.
Yes. I would say it's the most challenging financial management job I've ever had.
Definitely. Well, that's interesting. So, what is your day to day at FreeMe? A quick idea of your day to day, and then we'll go into the actual reason for this episode.
Well, generally a day to day, it's so varied in rehab because you actually never know from each day what's happening. But if it's sort of a structured day, I started off by checking emails, doing payments, sorting out as much of that admin as possible. Then going into if there's any meetings, I unfortunately am in a lot of meetings too, but get the meetings and stuff out the way. Then the focus goes on to the rehab side and just going and having a look at some of the bird of prey cases, discussing whatever needs to be discussed with staff. And then towards the end of the day, back really onto admin and finishing off that side before heading off home.
Yeah, amazing. And you never know what's going to happen. Like you said, it can be completely different every single day from day to day. If
Yes.
you don't know what FreeMe is about, FreeMe is a rehabilitation center, one of the best rehabilitation centers we have in South Africa. You know, the amazing work that they do with all of our wildlife that end up getting introduced, even with the current situation that I'm in, where I'm an estate manager. We work very closely together. We're now part of a Islands of Hope program with FreeMe. So FreeMe and I work quite closely together. So having a chat with Tammy on almost sometimes day-to-day basis about things. So it's very, very cool. Tammy, at your facility now, the state-of-the-art facility that FreeMe Wildlife is becoming, you have a very, very cool enclosure that we're going to chat about.
Yeah, so FreeMe is an amazing organization because it's really quite dynamic in lots of ways, and we're very proud of a number of firsts that have ever been done. And included in that is the structure that we're talking about. So FreeMe Wildlife has put up the first continuous flyway known as the FreeMe Wildlife Aerodrome in Africa. So it's the third in the world.
Amazing.
And yeah, so, it's quite funny because accidentally built the biggest one in the world as well. And that was just by pure
wow,
fluke.
okay.
Yeah, so
of course.
by the time we ended up measuring the finished product, because we sort of had designs, we started working off, and then as with a lot of these things where stuff is done for the first time, we had to do a few modifications and a couple of changes. And then by the time the whole structure was done and we measured it out, it was kind of like, oops, how did we do that? We built the biggest.
Well, of course, FreeMe would build the biggest aerodrome. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, that was by accident, though. We just really wanted to get the structure up because it's quite important, which I think we'll get into as to why, what it looks like, and what it actually does. So yes, as I say, we weren't really going for the biggest. We were just going for having the structure on site because of the importance of what it does for bird of prey rehabilitation.
Yeah, definitely. And I've had the amazing opportunity to visit just after you guys had finished the Aerodrome and had a couple of birds in there. And it's quite a large facility in itself. Really amazing to see how the whole thing works and how you can move birds around in those different areas and get them flying through the aerodrome around the sides, and seeing some of the videos on Instagram and Facebook on your socials of all that going on. So if anybody's interested to see how the aerodrome works, you'll be able to see a lot of that stuff on the socials for FreeMe Wildlife KZN.
Yeah, so maybe Ryan, maybe I must explain to the viewers, the listeners, perhaps what it actually looks like, so that they've got a picture in their mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, it's 35 meters long by 15 meters wide. It's like a rugby ball shape. In the center of the structure are 4 enclosures that feed into a track, basically, that goes around, a domed flyway that goes around the enclosures, so that birds can come out of the enclosure and can fly in an oval or a circular pattern around. And the whole idea is that there's no need to stop in flight. They can continue to go round and round and round, like an athlete on a track, basically.
Yeah, that's amazing. And obviously the width of it is long enough that one of your larger birds that you would fly in there, like a vulture, their wingtips are not going to be touching the side. They're completely free to fly all the way around unrestrained.
Absolutely. I mean, we've even had a wattled crane flying in there, and that's a bird with an impressive wingspan. So, um, apart from the wattled crane, we've had secretary bird, marabou stork, Cape vultures, martial eagle, crowned eagle. So we've had pretty much really, really big birds in there, and they fly comfortably around the aerodrome.
And Tammy, since you guys have been using it quite regularly now for a lot of your rehab birds, have you seen an increase in their ability to fly after release? You're obviously going to see that their muscles are going to develop a lot quicker and a lot better with being able to fly longer distances in that aerodrome.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was like the main aim behind it, because like most facilities, we've got straight tunnels, and you can get the bird to fly perch to perch between, across the length of that tunnel. But what we were finding is it's not building enough fitness. The straight flight tunnels are very nice to have, because you can gauge flight ability. Like, does the bird list to one side or pull to one side? So you can see if there's any abnormalities, maybe tightened tendons or stuff like that. But for building fitness, you need birds to fly a lot. And to get that right, there mustn't be a stop starting. There must just be birds on the wing flapping and going. And so there's no doubt that the Aerodrome has been so much better for building flight fitness. And we're seeing it with the releases as well, that the birds are doing so much better. They don't, and of course, we're trying to avoid things like green muscle disease and stuff like that, which is an overexertion and overuse of muscles that actually haven't been used in a while. So we're getting all of that right. The structure definitely works. And back to the wattled crane, even though that's not a bird of prey, that was a young bird that we raised, another first for FreeMe Wildlife. It's the first wild rehabilitated wattled crane chick raised from tiny to adulthood, successfully released, successfully reintroduced to another one. So it really was an amazing experience. But that bird, from the time she was released, could fly absolutely fine. And that's only because of the amount of exercise and time she got doing flight in the aerodrome itself.
Yeah, amazing. It's so good to hear that type of stuff, that all the hard work and all the effort that it went into getting this, and obviously all the funds to build this extremely large aerodrome is paying off, and it's making a huge difference for the species that come in that need rehabilitation. Can you give us a bit of an idea? I mean, I've seen the facility, but the listeners need to have a bit of an idea of the structure, as in how you move the birds around. I know there's that center piece where you've got the different pens. How would you how would you go about moving birds around to letting them using that aerodrome?
Yeah, so that was also well thought out. So the 4 enclosures in the center have interleading doors between them. So you can actually move birds if you need to clean one enclosure or move birds together. You can actually move them between the enclosures inside that section. But then each of those 4 enclosures, they have a door that leads out into the aerodrome so that you can actually release, you can open the door, let a bird out, it can exercise, and then you can bring it back in again, close it in, open the next one. So you can basically have at least 4 different kinds of birds in there at the same time, and they kind of all get a session. And we've done a little bit of this rotational work already. And people often say, well, how do you get them to go back into the enclosure? But here's where the key is. The actual dome section that goes around the outside of the aerodrome is covered in shade cloth, 80% shade cloth, whereas the enclosure roofs are open. So they got netting on. So the bird sees the sky and goes in. We also make sure that the feeding happens in the enclosure itself. So when we need to feed, the food is put in the enclosure, and it's so much easier for the bird to go in. So it's like food's been delivered, yay, I'm hungry, and go into the enclosure, which also makes it easier for us to close them in again. But honestly, we've had absolutely no issue with getting the birds to go back into the enclosures again after they've done their little flying session.
So amazing. It's so cool to hear that the way it was designed kind of works so well. What about having any birds that potentially don't want to even fly at all in the aerodrome? You kind of put them out in the circular section and they're just like, cool, thanks, and I'm just going to walk around or just sit here and do nothing.
Yes, we've had a couple of those lazy birds. But having said that, we also realized the first time you ever put a bird in there, they kind of like, what is this place? And they've got no idea that they can go round and round. So we know now, if you put them in, you just leave them for a while so that they can kind of orientate themselves. And then, yeah, we've had a couple of naughty ones, including some of the vultures, where you'll go in to try and encourage exercising and they run away from you. They run and hide round the corner. So you've got to go there and you'll peek around and there they see you and they run down the other section. So sometimes we've joked that the rehabbers are getting more exercise than the birds, because then obviously the only way to get them to fly is to run that much faster behind them until they're like, oh, we can't outrun the human, we better fly. So it can be quite funny to get some of them to fly. I must say though, most birds are quite happy to fly, but we have had a couple of odd individuals who think they can get away with not doing their exercise session.
It's so funny that you say vultures, because if anybody's watched a Cape vulture or a white-backed vulture run, it's the funniest thing ever, because they waddle from side to side doing this weird like waddle run and lift their wings up, and it's just a really funny looking thing because they really shouldn't be running on the floor.
Exactly. And you just think, why are you doing this? You're not really built for this motion. Why don't you just open your wings and go?
Oh, it's crazy. What are some of the species that have been through the aerodrome so far?
So yeah, we've used it for a lot of species. As I said, the wattle crane has been one that's not a bird of prey, and the whole idea was not necessary to restrict it only to birds of prey. It's for any of the big birds, and also pursuit hunting birds of prey. So really important, apart from obviously getting the vultures to fly and the crane, and we've done secretary bird, martial eagle, jackal buzzard, black sparrowhawk, yellow-billed kite. The yellow-billed kite, by the way, had an absolute ball. She loved it. I'm trying to think. I probably missed a couple of species. Secretary bird, marabou, stork. There's been a lot of them. But back to the pursuit hunting thing. So birds of prey. So the important thing again was when you have things like falcons and hawks coming in and they're actually actively pursue prey and have to hunt it down, their levels of fitness have got to be so good before release. And the whole idea was making them go round and round and round, again, builds up that fitness. So we've had lots of success with black sparrowhawks. I'm trying to think if we had African goshawk. We haven't had any falcons in it yet, but judging by how well just the big flight tunnel did for things like the Amur falcons and stuff, we've got no doubt that the aerodrome is going to work really, really well for the falcons as well. And it just means that you can get a pursuit hunting bird out of there in as good a condition as you can from a rehab perspective.
Yeah, that's so important. What is the time span that you would normally leave them in the aerodrome for? Obviously, it's going to be different for each species, but have you got like a set time that you leave them in there because you've got quite a few birds maybe, and do you have a set time that they are out in that aerodrome at the time?
Yeah, so it does vary species to species, but we did a bit of research, background research on fitness levels and how long basically a recovering bird can go without needing intensive exercise. And one of the papers we came across was quite specific that if you don't get a bird to exercise those pectoral muscles, you've got a deadline of 6 months. So in other words, if you're not getting it to exercise within 6 months, there's so much deterioration of the pectoral muscles that you never regain the fitness. So that's kind of, we can't push it past 6 months, if that makes sense. So we know we've got to get birds exercising and fit enough for release within 6 months. Having said that, we've only really had one vulture where we were beginning to sort of push that envelope. But the others, the whole idea with rehab is to try and get the recovery done as quickly and efficiently as possible so the bird can be returned to the wild as quickly as possible. So to give you an idea, just like recovering from fractures, it can take up to 3 months, but we're pretty good now. We can get them done in like 7 weeks. They're pretty good. They're flying fit, the wings are working well, and you can return them. But again, it is case by case. It depends on how bad an injury is and how long it's taking to recover. But we know we've got that 6 month deadline. We have got to get them flying fit and out within 6 months.
Yeah, it's crazy. Birds are a very intricate species, especially when it comes to bones and all those type of things, and also just those pectoral muscles. I mean, even when you're working with birds in captivity, and you know this also from the captive side, if you're flying birds for displays or anything like that, you've got to keep those pectoral muscles strong. Otherwise, you end up taking them out and they fly out, and the little breeze comes along and pushes them flat into the ground. So yeah, their pectoral muscles are vitally important for just continuous survival, I would say.
Oh, absolutely. If you look at the structure of a bird, those are the biggest muscles. There's nothing. I mean, that's why we all love roast chicken and eating the chest muscle, the breast meat, because that's literally, it's a skeleton and he's got these massive muscles in the front. So you can't afford for those muscles to deteriorate, because there's nothing else that's going to power your bird besides those muscles. So it's so important that they are the things that get focused on and they remain in prime condition.
Yeah. And this aerodrome, I was just thinking about it. It's quite a project that you guys had to do. How long did it take to build the aerodrome?
Well, that was another saga. So actually, we started the project before our dreaded COVID. It seems to be like one of those points in human history at the moment. But we started the whole project before COVID hit. And the whole idea was the aerodrome was supposed to be built for our Zululand Center. And then COVID hit and we were like, we couldn't get there to do anything. So we spoke to the people that originally sponsored the poles and the planks. And we said, look, we're not going to get this project going in Zululand. It's all on hold now. Can we build it at our Midlands Center? And everyone was like, yes, no problem, go for it. So it really started, we had to get all that wood and stuff back. It really started in about 3 years ago. So 2022, 23, somewhere around about there, we started on it. But it was reliant on donations, because obviously FreeMe being a non-profit, we've got to actually bring the funds in to do these big building projects. So it took a while, but it took 3 years to get it finally built. But the one thing we can say, which is really amazing, and we'll always remain extremely grateful, that entire project was sponsored by donors, basically. So
amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing that people just came together. We've taken a lot of those sponsors and donors to actually see the structure, because it's very impressive. And everybody just agrees it was well worth putting, whether it was materials or money or time into getting it done.
That's so amazing. Yeah, the people and the outreach to just sort of help you guys and get things going is just amazing. And if anybody listening to the podcast, Tammy, wants to help out or get involved with FreeMe, do you have something that they can do or check out?
Yeah, for sure. So I know it sounds like very cliche. Go to our website, but www.freemewildlife.org. There's so many, we've got our projects listed there. We've got ways to support us, and obviously contact forms, but there is so much people can do from, I mean, we've got everything from people who actually give time, so volunteers, to running specific programs like student programs, which brings in money for us, but it also means that we're actually training the next generation of wildlife rehabilitators, to joining our club, which is the custodianship program, to bringing their property on site as a release site, and like doing what you guys did, becoming an island of hope, becoming a green custodian, to obviously the financial sponsorship, so giving money, donating goods, so people with businesses can actually donate stuff that we will use. I mean, wood and timber and fencing and concrete, all of that kind of stuff is used all the time. And the nice thing is, being a registered PBO, which is a public benefit organization, we qualify to issue people with Section 18A certificates, which means that they can claim back what they have donated to us, whether it is financial or in the value of goods. They can claim that back from their tax every year. So instead of everything basically going to the government, people can give a portion, up to 10% of their taxable income, rather to a charity of their choice, and the government honors that.
All right, so what we'll do is we'll put down on the description of this podcast the website link and some of your social media links, so that people can just click on that and go and have a look and see the amazing work that FreeMe Wildlife does and see how they can help, because that's always needed. And yeah, I just want to say, I've always said this and you guys know this, but you do amazing work at FreeMe Wildlife. And as I said in the beginning of the episode, definitely one of the best rehabilitation centers we have in our country. So well done to you guys for doing amazing work, and the Aerodrome being the largest currently in the world, which kind of puts you even higher up there, which is really cool. So well done. But also, all that hard work really does pay off, even though it does take time to get those things going and a lot of funds. I mean, probably 3 years is a long time to work on a project to get it done and eventually see the benefits of it later on. But it's there and it's looking amazing, and I'm glad the birds are benefiting from it.
Oh, thank you. Yes, thanks so much, Ryan. I really appreciate it.
Well, Tammy, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for making the time to be on the podcast. Time is precious, especially with your guys' work that you do. It's very difficult to. It's probably taken us about 3 weeks to kind of get a date and a time to get you onto the podcast and chatting to us, because there's been so much going on, both your side and my side. So I'm just really grateful for you joining, and thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. It was so exciting, and I was very happy to be doing a podcast with you again. So thank you so much for the invitation, and yeah, we'll chat soon.
If you guys are interested in getting in touch with us at Animal Talk Podcast, please feel free to contact us. We do have an email address. It's animal.talk201@gmail.com. Please send us a mail. We like to hear from you guys. Let us know what you think of our podcast, any topic suggestions. Even if you want to talk about this podcast and discuss some things that maybe you went through. And then you can also get hold of us on our social media, right?
Yes, we are pretty much everywhere. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn. For our YouTube and Instagram accounts, it is Animal Talk Podcast _ZA. So you can go check us out on our platforms. And also, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, share our various social media pages, and help us to just reach even more animal keepers, animal lovers out there, so that we can share our knowledge, but also, just share our various topics that we have and get feedback and ultimately connect everybody, because that's really what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that's so important. Thanks for that, Ayrton. It's really important that you guys subscribe to our YouTube, like, comment. All of that helps try and get it out there to everyone. We really like to also hear from you. Tell us a little bit more about what you think about the podcast and maybe some ideas that you have. So you're welcome to contact us on any of those platforms, YouTube, or even email. And of course, everyone, stay safe. And remember, animals are our passion.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning into this episode, and I really hope that you've learned something new. And remember that our quality of care is their quality of life. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh my goodness.
I think we're losing the plot.
Losing. I don't think
It's
we
gone.
can't lose anything because you can't lose something that you didn't have.
How rude. I'm a jellyfish.
Swimming, swimming, swimming.